Sushil ji is here. Namaskar, Sushil ji.
Namaskar, Mara. Vishware.
Namaskar, Sushil ji.
Namaskar ji.
So we'll get started.
Yes.
Sanjay, you are good to go?
I'm good to go. You can start, yeah.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all the viewers who are joining us from around the globe. Namaskar and welcome to everyone. I am Neetu Bhatt, Secretary KOA, and it's my honor to kick off this program today on behalf of our president, Dr. Archana Kokru, who is traveling today. So just a recap for some of our viewers who might be joining us for the first time. ZoomDub program was created by KOA to connect the global community, global Kashmiri community, and discuss and debate the critical issues for a wider audience and possible solutions. The name itself is reminiscent of a program ZoomDub that used to run on Radio Kashmir, and most of us grew up listening to this program in the mornings. And ZoomDub will continue to evolve in this format and we'll have more conversations about our social, cultural, and current affairs that are relevant to the Kashmiri Hindu community. By the way, the program ZoomDub in Kashmir was created by legendary Mr. Pushkar Ban that we are all aware of. So it's my pleasure and honor to welcome today's ZoomDub guest, who is also one of our greatest contemporary scholars who has been tirelessly working towards the Kashmiri Hindu rehabilitation for over the last 3 decades. So without much ado, I would like to welcome Shri Sushil Pandit ji. Namaskar, Sushil ji, and welcome to the ZoomDub today.
Namaskar, Mara.
Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Sushil ji needs no introduction to any Indian and especially to our Kashmiri community, a renowned historian, orator, an intellectual, and founder and CEO of Hive Communications India. As you all know, he's been predominantly as a Kashmiri leader and a firebrand activist who has voiced a strong opinion on Kashmir issue and made the story of Kashmiri Hindus known worldwide on various platforms. So also I would like to introduce our host and moderator, Mr. Sanjay Kaul. Sanjay ji grew up in Delhi and has been our ZoomDub lead, having brilliantly moderated numerous events this year. So from early days in Kashmir, he has been passionate and active in theater and radio programming. Currently, Sanjay ji is an entrepreneur in the healthcare space and is based out of New Jersey, Zone 3 for KOA. So Sanjay ji, please take it from here. It's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar once again, Sushil ji, and thanks, Neetu. It's a wonderful opportunity and it's a privilege really to be talking to you. We've all heard about Sushil ji on YouTube and Z and all the channels. And so it's no introduction, as Neetu said. The topic for today is simple in many ways and straightforward. And the challenge will be to stay on the specifics. And we'll try to, time and everything Sunday afternoon. So we will not spend too much time on the history of Kashmir and all that stuff. We will stay on Article 370. That is the topic, and we all know how important it is. It is probably one of the most historical decisions that happened in our lifetime related to J&K. And in many ways, not just for J&K, for rest of India, because of the proximity of the place, the geopolitical history, the wars we fought with the neighboring countries and so on. So it's very, very critical, very important. We all know that. This happened on August 5, 2019. Almost 3 years plus have passed, and it seems like it just happened, just like that. Another fact I want to mention about this abrogation was when this was done, there was also a Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act of 2019 that was passed in the parliament, which also gave a special status to as two union territories, and Sushil ji will probably dive deeper into that. Jammu and Kashmir, and Ladakh. So those are the big sort of things that happened post-abrogation. We will have very few questions for you, Sushilji, but hopefully we'll take a deep dive, and we'll have a time slot for Q&A because a lot of folks have joined us. They have questions, and I think we want to give them a chance to ask you. Rubaru to nahi ho sakta. It's as good as Rubaru in modern day and time. So, pehla sawal, thoda sankshipt mein, if you can talk about the overview of Article 370, how it happened, why it happened, from 1954 it started till its abrogation, and how it affected the people of J&K and its impact. If you can just talk about that, so everybody's on the same page, because many people know about it, but I think still some people need a context, if you will, of the Article 370. Please.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. First of all, grateful for this invitation. It's a fabulous initiative to bring the community and the larger community of Hindus together and bring up the contemporary issues and other important issues in our discourse so that we remain connected to our reality. It's very easy to lose ourselves in a day-to-day humdrum and the business of surviving and getting ahead. Article 370 is in our constitution from day one. The constitution making process stopped or culminated or concluded on November 25, 1949. On 26th of November 1949, all the members of Constituent Assembly signed off on the document as a mark of their approval and their testimony. Constitution making process had one very interesting caveat, that we will never put anything in the constitution through voting. We will do it through consensus. And consensus building takes time, takes a lot of debate and argument. Article 370 was one of the last provisions to be added to this constitution. Article 370 was hugely contested. The chairman of the drafting committee of our constitution, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, he was also the first law minister of this country in Jawaharlal Nehru's interim cabinet after we got our so-called independence. Constituent Assembly comprised of elected members from different parts of India. Sheikh Abdullah and 3 of his colleagues were part of Constituent Assembly. They helped create the Constitution of India through that consensus. And towards the end, he went to Jawaharlal Nehru and asked for certain concessions and exceptions to be made for the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Jawaharlal Nehru guided him to Ambedkar, that he is the law minister, go ask for what you want and he will draft it for you. And when he went to Dr. Ambedkar and asked for what he wanted, Dr. Ambedkar rejected it ab initio. In his words, he said, you want India, rest of India, to build roads and bridges, build hospitals and schools, even defend the territory. And in return, you don't want the rest of India to have anything to do in Kashmir. If I were to approve of this, I would be committing a treason with this newly independent republic. So I'm not going to do this. Jawaharlal Nehru thought that since Congress had the majority in the Constituent Assembly, if the Congress Working Committee passes this with approval, then rest of the Constituent Assembly will come around the view. The Congress Working Committee rejected it in one voice. Nehru, as he was committed to Sheikh for all his whims and fancies, then asked Sardar Patel, his deputy prime minister and home minister, and Gopalaswamy Iyengar, man without portfolio in his ministry, assisting him on Kashmir affairs. Gopalaswamy Iyengar was one time the prime minister of Maharaja Hari Singh also. He is a very well-known civil servant, bureaucrat. Both Sardar Patel and Gopalaswamy Iyengar approached Constituent Assembly and persuaded them with a cock and bull story that Kashmir is a contested state. It is facing an invasion and a ceasefire. The matter is in UN. We cannot treat it with the same standard that rest of India we have. And therefore, this is an exceptional provision, which is only temporary and transient. They added these two words in the very first sentence when the provision, the article was defined and texted. With these provisions and such aggressive persuasion, the Constituent Assembly passed this to be added, but Bhim Rao Ambedkar insisted on not being a party to it. He refused to attend that session, which incorporated Article 370 in the Indian Constitution. What does Article 370 do? In all my conversations across the world, when I ask people of their understanding, the routine response is that it disallows people from rest of India to buy land in Kashmir. That is the popular notion about Article 370, as if it was a matter of real estate, which is very partially true. I mean, it's a little fraction of what it does. And if I were to tell you, Article 370, in the name of autonomy to Jammu and Kashmir, restricts the jurisdiction of our parliament, the highest sovereign body. I shouldn't say restricts because it is not in present tense anymore. But when it did, Indian Parliament, our highest sovereign body with jurisdiction over every square inch of land called India, had no jurisdiction over Jammu and Kashmir. So every law it passed had a caveat except in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Then it restricted the jurisdiction of Constitution of India. The same Constitution which Sheikh Abdullah and his colleagues helped draft. They were party to it. So they built the Constitution of India and then did not let it prevail in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Look at the hypocrisy. Then it restricted the jurisdiction of Supreme Court of India, Election Commission of India, Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Whole lot of these restrictions, and these are sovereign bodies. What else is a sovereign nation? And how else can a territory be part of it if these organs of the state do not prevail in a territory? So why was this done? If you remember, partition of India was carried out on the premise that Muslims of India cannot live with the Hindu majority India, even if it were a democracy, even if it were a secular democracy, even if it was a constitutional democracy where everyone was equal. Muslim League said, because Muslims are a minority, it will necessarily have to endure a Hindu majority rule. So no matter what the provisions are and privileges are for minority, we cannot live. We have been rulers. We cannot be ruled by a Hindu majority, even if a democratic dispensation. So we want a separate country. If that was the reason for partition, exactly same were the reasons of Sheikh Abdullah for Jammu and Kashmir. We are a Muslim majority state. And we would have our own constitution. We will not have your parliament, your Supreme Court, your election commission, your comptroller and auditor general, and a whole lot of other provisions apply to us. So in effect, what he demanded and got was a Pakistan on the territory of India. This is what Article 370 did. It was not just a question of buying land. If land were the only issue, I would rather say that even President of India could not buy a square inch of land in Jammu and Kashmir if he so wished. Forget rest of the citizens. So this is the travesty inflicted on us on day one.
Okay.
You mentioned 1954. That is the year when 35A was smuggled into our constitution. When I say smuggled in, 35 capital A is a provision which is not in the main body of Constitution. It is in the annexure one. And even Parliament was not informed. It was behind the back of the nation, quietly through a presidential proclamation, added to the annexure of Constitution of India. Many jurists and judges did not know of its existence. We had 35 small a, but not capital A. And these are two different things. So what does 35 capital A does? After having done all that, it entitles the state of Jammu and Kashmir to define its own citizens as different from the citizens of the country. And by doing so, and they did so through in retrospective effect from 1944, because it wanted to disenfranchise all the Hindus and Sikhs who ran away from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and West Punjab in the wake of partition to take refuge in the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So it defined its citizens as they existed in 1944 and denied the rights to buy land, to build a house, to have a shop, any real estate, to even educate their children in state institutions, have entitlement to scholarships, jobs, even government contracts, voting rights, fighting elections. All of this was denied in the name of defining the what they called state subjects. This is how they created two classes of citizens. And would you believe, they even created a condition that those from rest of India traveling to Jammu and Kashmir would need a permit.
I remember that.
As if we were going for a visa. Now, this is the travesty inflicted through Article 370.
So that's a big context, right? I think, and all that is gone, at least 35A and 370 is both gone. Is that correct to say?
Yes, 35A came on 14th of June, 1954. Even the then President, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, asked a question, wrote a letter to Pandit Nehru. Is this constitutional? Is this legal? Is this moral? Is it politically tenable? Should we even do it? Is it a national interest? And Jawaharlal Nehru, in a written reply, told him, all your questions are valid, but we will discuss it off the record. So no one knows what they discussed off the record. But this was proclaimed. Nehru prevailed. And you must understand, 1954 is the time when Sheikh was already deposed. He was deposed in July 1953, which means it wasn't tied up to Sheikh Abdullah. It was the policy of Nehru and Congress. They could not blame Sheikh Abdullah's arm twisting
and all that. Yeah. So a follow-up question. So I think context is detailed enough, and we should go to the next question. So, but I think one more thing I want to just say before we jump to the next question. Wasn't Article 370 also, or a similar statute was also in some other states like Sikkim, Arunachal, or some of the northeastern states? Can you just spend a couple of minutes on that, please?
So very often, the apologists of Article 370 say that there is 371 also, which gives similar guarantees or protections to different states. It is absolute bullshit. Article 370 restricts our parliament, restricts our constitution, restricts our courts, restricted a whole lot of things, and actually defines the citizenship as independent of Indian citizenship. But Article 371 only creates protections for certain states, which are sensitive geographies, where you need to take the permission from local authorities only. There is no absolute restriction.
Okay.
There is regulation.
Okay.
And in that regulation, yes, there are border states, there are disturbed states, yes, where poor or tribals have their own property and land holdings, and you protect them.
Not marginalized.
Money bags. But if somebody has a viable and good project can go, they go and have those things done. And it doesn't restrict our sovereignty in the process.
Okay.
So these are completely, not comparables.
Point taken. Point taken. Yeah. Okay. So I think I wanted to clarify for myself and for some of the listeners also, as you say, a lot of times this is brought out, Arunachal and all that. So that's a very good clarification for, me also. I think let's move forward. I think context is set up. We all understand, hopefully a better understanding of how draconian and how bad this 370 was. And
another difference you must remember, all of us, those were special provisions. 370 was not a special provision. 370 was a temporary and transient provision. 370 is not temporary and transient. It is a special provision. Okay.
Got it.
We are in a different chapter of Constitution. So those who are into legal fineries would appreciate the difference.
Okay. So I think I'm going to move forward post abrogation, and I want to talk about a little bit positive on after 370. What would you say if I was to ask you to list or to talk about three things that have happened after 370 that could be considered a positive for rest of the country and J&K and people and minorities and Shias? And I know there is a lot you can talk in that, but let's say the three positive things that I would say that could have. Emotionally, there is a lot of positive stuff, I know, but if you could just talk about that.
Okay, so before I get down to the positives, one of the biggest positive you can draw your own inference from is the fact that on 5th of August 2019, when our parliament decided to do away with most of these provisions of Article 370 and neutered it literally. Technically, it still exists in our constitution because to remove this article, there are some legal issues. So you retain it, but you completely dysfunctionalize it. And that's what we did. We neutered it. Now, what happened when we neutered it? On 6th of August, Pakistan called our High Commissioner, because our ambassadors in some Commonwealth countries are called High Commissioners.
Yes.
It was Ajay Bisaria. Called him and told him, you are persona non grata, pack your bags. On 7th, the very next day, they called him again. And they said, sorry, we want to humiliate you more. You are expelled and you have only 24 hours. Pack your bags and leave. I don't recall in the last 40, 50 years, we have ever expelled a Pakistani diplomat, in the sense of Pakistan High Commissioner, an ambassador from India. Despite provocations like Kargil War, attack on our parliament, Mumbai attacks, even Pulwama or Uri, or other atrocious things.
Never happened.
Kandahar hijacking.
Never happened.
The hijackers as well as the terrorist release were given civil receptions in Pakistan. None of these occasions, India resorted to this. And when Indian Parliament, using its jurisdiction on Indian Constitution, in an open session through debate, in a due process, addresses an issue on our Constitution, what business Pakistan has doing this?
Point taken.
So you know whose interests Pakistan was serving. Article 370 was serving in our constitution. Not just this, China on 13th of August went to Security Council of United Nations and sought the other P4, permanent 4, to discuss this issue. The other P4 said, nothing doing. This doesn't belong here in our agenda. It is internal matter of India. That did not deter China. They went to Security Council twice more before December of 2019. So the same 5 months, they went to Security Council thrice. I don't recall India having gone to Security Council even once in the last 70 years.
For all the stuff China has done, but I got it. Yeah.
Okay, so you know how China suffered on this count. Now,
come back here.
India reclaims sovereignty over its territory. For me, it is far more than any tangible benefits in my pocket or any individual's pocket. What it certainly did was, and to me, that was a big plus, because Indian political class, Indian leadership, Indian system, across the board, all parties, coalitions, prime ministers, governments put together, had a consensus to retain Article 370, and they retained them. Governments came and went, but it remained. For the first time, I thought Indian state had realized that this was a challenge to their existence. It was an existential threat, and they need to repeal it. And I thought, for the first time, India has decided to now declare a war on jihad instead of continue to appease it. And in that, I thought there was redemption, because we were waiting for the Indian state to eventually call the bluff and join the battle of survival. Instead of appeasing and aggrandizing and trying to win hearts and minds of an implacable enemy, they would now start fighting back to save itself. Okay. This was the biggest plus. I've asked many Bhattas, many Kashmiri Hindus, I mean, what makes you happy about Article 370 neutered? They said, and this has been repeated refrain, hey, Vanj pe shehlat.
Yes, yes, yes.
Whether I get anything or not.
Thank you.
That become the symbol of the enemy within. And this enemy within has been dismantled. It is a matter of satisfaction that our leadership has finally found spine.
Yes.
Found the political will, which was missing.
Agreed. At the ground level, there is a PM's package, and some things have happened, and some things have not enough change. But would you like to talk about those things that have happened in a
Yes. Okay. Now, all that is not related to 370 at all. All this predates the neutering of Article 370. For example, PM's package was thought about in 2010, started implementing in 11-12. And under that, some jobs were given to Kashmiri youth in order to push them back in the valley. And I, for one, wasn't an enthusiastic supporter of it, because you see, when we left Kashmir, we had our jobs, we had our businesses, we had our homes and lands, didn't we? We left all that because we could not live anymore safely. Our mothers, daughters, sisters could not live there without being humiliated. That was the reason we had to leave.
Absolutely.
We had our jobs.
Absolutely.
Now throwing jobs at us and throwing some camp accommodations at us, they're wanting to drag us back. We had our big homes, not barbed wire camps. We yet left because things were untenable. And have you made things tenable? Is security available? If it is not available, if those conditions still prevail, why are you forcing us back in the valley? To what purpose? And why aren't you fighting those forces and demolishing them before you want to push us back? And my understanding is it is only to rid themselves of this blame that you've not been able to put Kashmiris back in Kashmir. Just to, nakhwalun in Kashmiri, you say, you need to just get rid of this monkey on your back that you have not been able to rehabilitate Kashmiri Hindus on their lands, that you want to push us back. And you want to tell the world that, see, we have given thousands of jobs, we have created some dozens of camps where we keep them like, zoo animals, we give them protection, but they are back. And now whoever had to go back has gone back. Those who don't want to go back, we can't force them. Matter over. This has been.
So I think, I got your point. So let's change on that a little bit. I didn't want to interrupt you. NRI community, NRI Indian community, or Indians in India, I think for NRIs, it's harder sometimes to do anything on the ground because we are far. There is a lot of emotional, zeal or thing to do. But what can we do? Maybe keep the discussion alive, keep the conversation alive. That's part of it, right? So we are doing that. The colleges sometimes in this country or universities have a very different perspective story on Kashmir, and their version is definitely totally, in my view, incorrect. And there are reasons for that, and I think we have discussed those. But are there any things we can do from here, not just the Kashmiri Hindus, the Indian community, that can make things better? Can we influence congressmen? I think there is some activity that has been done by KO in that regard also. Indians in India, of course, can do a lot more, but if you can just touch on those points, some of the things that come to your mind.
Now, Sanjay ji, this is a very apt issue. This government, Modi government, has been found to be most sensitive to NRI moods and NRI approvals ever. No other government in India has invested so much in NRI engagement, Indians abroad, Indian diaspora abroad, as this government has, and showcased it to the world that how popular this government is, and also to Indians in India as to how successful, knowledgeable, committed Indians hail this government and its achievements and become ambassadors of this government's great work across the world. So therefore, the clout you wield over this government and its policies is disproportionately large.
Mhm.
You may not be voting in the elections for them to retain their office, but for the optics, for the legitimacy, they really rely a great deal on you.
State tensions in the region have been high since U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited.
I think it was somebody's TV. Yeah.
Okay. So not really to engage congressmen and senators where you are, or parliamentarians or bureaucracy wherever you are. If you create a standard for the government to meet, if you actually start asking questions, what have you done about this, that, and the other, on policy, on commitments, the government, because of its sensitivity to your perception of the government, will be forced to do something substantive and not just do window dressing or do symbolism in order to get away on a certain issue. Now, what kind of symbolism prevails? In order to build an illusion of security, what you find happening in Kashmir is event management. On 15th of August, you will find hundreds of tricolors atop shikaras, some buildings. You will find children singing Jana Gana Mana and some parade happening, and you will say, see, Kashmir has changed. Or on Janamashtami, you will have a video clip of a procession from Lal Chowk, decked up Radha Krishna, and you will have bhajans and singing and dancing devotees in a procession, and you say, did you ever imagine this happening at Lal Chowk? Now, this kind of event management, headline management, and suggestion of normalcy is so superficial that it takes jihad just 1 week of killing every day to bring these illusions crashing down. And nowhere are people safe, whether in their homes, sitting in their offices, working in their banks, managing their shops, on the streets. No place absolutely is safe for them.
So you're saying the NRI community should engage the present government more actively through various channels?
Yeah. And then there is this pulling of wool over our eyes. On 5th of August, you proclaimed that 370 has been undone. And on 31st of March 2020, within less than 8 months, you surreptitiously slip in a domicile notification, 45-page legal document, which says those who have been staying in Kashmir for 15 years continuously are entitled to be called the permanent citizens or the domicile citizens of Kashmir, and only such citizens will have a monopoly on all jobs. Now, after keeping Kashmir in a citadel-like provision 370, which prevented rest of Indians to go there, you have just about created a level playing field. There is a huge job of correcting the demographic imbalance, bringing back those who were expelled from Kashmir just because they were Hindus or Sikhs. You create that 15-year tall wall to re-privilege that majority in Kashmir. Why did you have to do it? Who are you trying to appease? Who had asked for it? These questions have to be asked. Who will go to Kashmir now? How? And today you have created a mechanism that there is one privilege that they will have a monopoly over all jobs. What is the guarantee that subsequent governments or administrations may not add to those privileges, like you will only these people have the claim on scholarships or government contracts, and buying of agriculture land or buying of houses or any other thing, even voting and contesting elections, we will be back to square one, because you created a legitimate device in the system called domicile citizens by none other than the Home Ministry in the central government. So, in competitive populism, you can keep piling up these privileges in the name of mandate we have received from the people of Kashmir. So this was treachery, nothing short of that. And somebody must hold this government to account as to what was the need and who were they trying to appease.
I was reading about this. There was a G20 talk being held, and they were saying they might want to organize this in Kashmir. And that kind of brings whether it's just a sham but I think in general, if there is a national event of some stature, whether it is hockey or cricket or football, which has got central government money and in building roads and infrastructure and not given to the state government at all for disbursements and all that. Do you think those kind of activities can sort of make things change there? If there is a national event held, security has to be there. Government will be liable if something wrong happens, not just some Kashmiri Hindu boys, getting a job there. Would that not change the mix if there is a national event held, which is, literary conference, anything which has other Indians going there, not just Kashmiri Hindus,
Sanjay ji, we are given to symbolism more than substantive stuff. This is part of symbolism. This is part of window dressing. If you remember in 1983, when India had just won the World Cup cricket under Kapil Dev's leadership, there was a West Indies tour of India, and a match was played in Srinagar.
I was there.
And you know what happened?
Yes, I was there. Yes.
Okay. 4 years back, I happened to meet Sushil Pandit over breakfast, and we spoke, and I reminded him of that match. You know what he said? He said all West Indies players were amazed because the kind of support they get at home was not as vociferous as they got in Srinagar, number one. And number two, they said, I could have understood West Indies flags fluttering in some hands, but they were Pakistani flags while we were playing India. And Gavaskar said, that day, I promised myself that I will never ever set foot in Kashmir. And I have held on to that promise till date.
I know those are real things, and I'm not trying to minimize.
This is G20 summit is not going to happen in Kashmir. One of the retreats destination in Kashmir is Kashmir. So G20 summit will happen in Delhi, but a plane load of officials and heads of the state will be taken there, just as we take plane loads of smuggled in European Parliament members. We took them in October 2019. Then we took several envoys, foreign envoys stationed in Delhi in 2 plane loads to seek their approval, to show them that everything is normal. I mean, on one hand, we say that we don't need international meddling or certification of how Kashmir is handled by India, whether it is stable or normal or abnormal. On the other hand, we seek their indulgence and seeks approval and validation from them every now and then. It shows how shaky or how superficial we are on this issue of this being our internal issue. Then why do we need to resort to such symbolism?
Sure. I know. My point was different, but just one thing. मैं audience से भी ये गुजारिश करना चाहता हूँ कि अगर कुछ सवाल है तो please post in the chat groups. We are almost at a point where we will take the questions. So please post any questions and our team will curate them and, we'll ask them as much time permits. But point was not for, coming back to your response, Sushilji, my point was not for the showing off to the world. I was more thinking whenever Asian Games in Delhi, right? When it happened, the infrastructure of the city really got improved. So government finds an opportunity to spend money without too many questions asked, and actually things do get done, and political parties get benefit and all that, but actually something gets built. In that sense, if there was a meet in Kashmir, probably it could get closer to the rest of the country. I was just thinking on those lines, which may not be the time for today.
Sanjay ji, Kashmir needs sanitized atmosphere, sanitized of jihad, sanitized of insurgency, sanitized of AK-47s. Indian state has seized more than 100,000 Kalashnikovs in Kashmir. Kalashnikovs are neither manufactured in India, nor they grow on the apple trees of Kashmir. If there is so much of arms and ammunition in Kashmir, and you hang upside down to just about pull off an event incident free, does it mean that you have normalized the situation? You may perhaps create an antiseptic network of security in the footprint where G20 guys are landing for a week or 2 days or 4 days. And after they leave, it is back to square one. What good it is for Kashmir or for India, except for the symbolism that, see, we did this. So point is, we have to do something permanent on the ground. And as far as infrastructure is concerned, let us not reward violence and jihad with infrastructure and development. It doesn't impress them at all. Gilani had said it from the rooftops when Prime Minister announced an 80,000 crore package in 2014. He said, even if you pave our roads with gold, we are not going to leave our insistence for freedom. That is the attitude, and that needs to be addressed first. This is, instead of stick, giving carrot. This is incentivizing jihad. This is incentivizing violence. It is incentivizing bad behavior. This place needs sanity more than infrastructure.
Okay, I think some questions are coming. So let's see, at least one question I think I can take. Sharda ji ne question ek bheja hai, Sharda Chervu. I mean, it could be a long question, so if you, it could be long. So the question has a very large response option, I think, but if you can just keep it a little bit shorter. The question is, what are some of the things, 3 things that, in your opinion, is just not plain symbolism? Though I feel some symbolism is always necessary, not only, but anyway, so that's a different discussion. So she's asking, what are the 3 things that are not just symbolism and not just window dressing that can make a sustainable impact? So if we can keep it short, I know it could mean a very long, yeah.
No, the problem is there is even symbolism in fighting back with jihad. I'll tell you, on 5th of February 2019, and this is almost 9 days before Pulwama happened, okay, they banned JKLF and they detained Yasin Malik. And what they said while doing so is that JKLF was responsible for the Kashmiri Hindu genocide. They gave it in writing. Rajiv Gauba was the Home Secretary. He addressed the press conference himself. Now imagine, JKLF was responsible for our genocide in 1990 and 1989.
Yes.
And they banned it in 2019, 5th February, just 2 months before general elections. This is what I call misplaced symbolism. They banned Jamaat-e-Islami, but they didn't let their institutions go under lock. They didn't ban their youth wing, Jamiyat-e-Tulba, to be banned. They didn't ban Ahle Hadith, which is widely acknowledged globally as the mother of Lashkar-e-Taiba. They did not ban a whole lot of incendiary mosques from where propaganda happened. They did not detain Maulvis. They did not do a whole lot of things. Just
so banning these organizations is one thing. Complete ban, or that is one thing that I'm hearing.
Two. I'm talking about symbolism. Now they say that we are prosecuting Yasin Malik. We have put him in life imprisonment. You know what he has been prosecuted for? He's being prosecuted for money laundering. He's being prosecuted for terror funding. He's been prosecuted for belonging to an organization that waged war against India. Now, some of these are white-collar crimes. He has not been prosecuted for massacres, for murders, for abductions, for rapes, for genocide, which would have given him capital punishment. And the sham was exposed the moment he readily accepted all those charges, and there was no argument, there was no trial literally, and the court convicted him and sentenced him to life imprisonment as if it was a stage-managed scripted drama, which started and ended within weeks. This is what I call symbolism. You are unwilling to prosecute those who are soaked in our blood. It was state's job to prosecute Bitta Karate. Would you believe it is Satish Tiku's family who's prosecuting him, and the state is dragging its feet? This is where they get exposed. Not one heinous crime till date in the last 33 years has been prosecuted, convicted, or sentenced. Not one, as an exception.
Okay. So this is one area. Okay, that is non-symbolism that can be done much differently and much more effectively and much more honestly, if you will. That should be done. Okay. Any other non-symbolic activity? I'm referring to Sharda.
Yes. I will come to now issues that directly. I mean, not that these issues do not directly impinge on us. They have till date not acknowledged our genocide. They still call us migrants. They still call what happened in Kashmir was separatism, was some kind of brainwashing of the youth, was some misunderstanding between communities, which now needs to be restored into some mythical utopian era of harmony, milk and honey. This is what is being said.
That's also wrong. Yeah.
We all must insist that please acknowledge our genocide. This was nothing short of a genocide. It met with the conditions of UN Convention on Genocide 1948. You must acknowledge our genocide. That's number one. Number two, you must deliver justice to victims and survivors. 33 years is a long time. It is a shame for any criminal justice system to not even look at it. Even Supreme Court tossed away our petition in 2017, saying it is too late. 27 years have passed. This is utter crying shame. Chief Justice J.S. Kehar and Chief Justice Deepak Mishra themselves were complicit in this. With the bench of Justice Chandrachud, they even tossed away our review petition. So this is horrendous. 3, our properties have been encroached. Our homes, our lands have been grabbed, either in distress sale or they just simply walked in and occupied.
That should be, yeah, okay.
So, and Sanjay ji, let me just spend 2 more sentences on this. So long as ill-gotten profits of our genocide continue in the hands of these highway robbers, there will always be an incentive in future to commit this genocide again, because it is profitable. You have to snatch away at least the immovable gains that they have made of lands, of homes, of temple properties, of orchards, of businesses, of shops. That has to be taken away.
Okay, that's very specific. Okay, I got it. I think Sharda ji must have got the answer. Yeah.
And fourth, we cannot live in the same homes where our neighbors betrayed us to our killers. Let this be very clear. We need our share of the valley. We need Panun Kashmir. We will rebuild it. We will secure it. But government must show the spine to bring us back to a place from where we will never ever be driven out again. We have had enough of it. We cannot go back as sitting ducks, as lambs to slaughter, to be chased out again a couple of generations down the line.
So I think just to summarize, I think these are really great ideas. Acknowledging genocide, banning, the punishment for the for the perpetrators of crime.
Heinous crimes, yes.
Heinous crimes.
Tribunals, special
And-
tribunals. For that, a genocide legislation has been proposed because these were no ordinary crimes. These are no peacetime crimes like, a stray murder or a stray robbery. No, this was organized,
Yes,
institutionalized. This
institutionalized.
needs a Nuremberg-like trial. This needs Tokyo-like trial.
And third,
That special
important
provisions have to
profits.
be in our constitution, in our criminal justice system.
Yeah, I think these are definitely, all three are very valid points. And I see that would put, like you said, precedence to anybody ever attempting to do this to any minority, not just Kashmiri Hindu minority. And it could be taken in India. There's a lot of injustice happening to many minorities. Such things should be as a country, any minority should be protected for that matter. Okay. Now, I think we're almost, I think we have done very well with the time. So I'm very happy that we've been able to, do this in under an hour. But one thing I want you, before we wrap up, and ask Neetu to thank. Last time we met, you had talked about a Hindu global summit or a conference, that something is like planned in 2023. I think some of us are aware of it, but a lot of other folks who are today joining from all over the world, if you can just talk about that and just in a brief, what it is all about, what it entails, and so on.
Thank you so much for bringing this up, Sanjay ji. I'm grateful for this. We have on every 19th of January congregated in small or big numbers wherever we are to remind ourselves and remind others as to what happened to us in 1990 in Kashmir. This year, idea is to scale it up. And this year, idea is to tweak this narrative a little. We've always called it the Kashmiri Hindu genocide. I believe, and a lot of my
There's an audio issue, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot hear Sushil ji. Still cannot hear.
I think he's on mute.
Yeah.
Yes.
Somebody muted me. Okay. So the idea is that this is not a standalone Kashmiri Hindu genocide. In fact, it is continuation of Hindu genocide that has been taking place over the last more than 1,000 years. There was a genocide of Hindus in Sindh. There is a complete wipeout of Hindu population from Afghanistan. There is a wipeout of Hindu population from Punjab, Balochistan, and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. There is a wipeout of Hindu Sikh population from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, Gilgit-Baltistan, Skardu. Hindu population in Bangladesh is staring at a collapse with under 8% proportion of population. It used to be 31% in 1951 census of East Pakistan. There was a huge assault on Hindus of Sri Lanka in 2009. There's a huge discrimination against Hindus of Malaysia, institutionalized discrimination through Bhumiputra policies.
Yes, I know that.
Hindus were expelled from East Africa, from Kenya, from Tanzania, from Uganda, and they had to take refuge all over the world. Hindus were replacement for the slaves who were freed through a euphemism called indentured labor, and they were striven all over like Mauritius, Trinidad,
Fiji.
South Africa. So Hindus, not just in medieval times through jihad of Tatars and Turks and Persians and Uzbeks suffering it in the mainland India, Hindus all over the world have been at the receiving end, and hundreds of million lives have been lost. Territories have been cleansed of Hindus. And what happened in medieval times in India happened in 1990 in this day and age in Kashmir. And it is continuing in several other parts of India, in Bengal, in Bihar, in Malappuram, Kerala, in Uttar Pradesh, in Tamil Nadu. We are being oppressed in our own free country. So this must go up. This battle of narratives has to be fought in right earnest globally. So what we are going to do this 19th of January is project Kashmiri Hindu genocide as part of continuing Hindu genocide for over a millennium.
Awesome.
And this will go from each corner of the world. say in eastmost Sydney in Australia, to Singapore, to Bangalore, to Mumbai, to Delhi, to Dubai, to Brussels, to London, to East Coast in US, say in Washington, DC or New York, to Toronto, to Dallas, to San Francisco, West Coast, where it will culminate. And we will have communities locally so that they don't have to fly long distances all over the world, congregate in one big marathon conference where baton will be passed from one city to the other through a digital connect, a digital spine, and each venue will have giant screens to see what is happening on the other venues. So a 20-hour vigil across the world addressed by the tallest and the most visible icons, global icons. We are trying to get Steven Spielberg at the West Coast,
Awesome.
who's made Schindler's List, and who himself as a community is part of a genocide that happened. We'll try and get former prime ministers, David Cameron in UK probably, Stephen Harper in Toronto, Canada, who's the current leader of opposition. We'll try and get Tony Abbott, or former prime minister, or Scott Morrison, till recently the prime minister in Australia. We will try and get credible voices, those who stand with the victims and call for an end to this. 1 billion Hindus will come together across regions, languages, states, ethnicities, as one community in order to highlight this issue and tell the world enough of it, no more.
And needless to say, we are with you, and the KOA is also going to be supporting and helping and whatever we can, and we'll talk about that. So I think we're almost at the end of it. So thank you very much, Sushilji, and thank you for the audience for making this program on a Sunday afternoon, sharing your Sunday afternoon with us. Everybody has a busy schedule, I know, and still summer in most of the United States. So people have a lot of plans. I really appreciate everybody joining. And before we end, I'll ask Neetu on behalf of KOA to take over and thank everybody. Please, Neetu, go ahead.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you for a brilliant conversation that we had here. And as much as we would like this interesting conversation in which we are personally vested to continue, everything good has to come to an end. And Sushilji, when you talk, you hold the audience captive. You have done an extensive work, and today we have just touched the tip of the iceberg. So thank you for being our voice and representing us on different forums. I would like to extend thank you to our audience. As you said, Sanjay, on the Sunday afternoon, summer Sunday afternoon, they joined us. So thank you so much. And last but not the least, Indu, for all that you do, and Sanjay ji for always carrying the program so brilliantly. Thank you, all of you. And thank you, Sushil ji, for joining us.
I'm so grateful. It's a great honor and privilege to be part of this vibrant community and to be part of this conversation with Sanjay ji. He's put in a lot of heart and soul in building up this platform. I wish you
Absolutely
all for your future endeavors. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sushil ji, for your time.
Namaskar.